Hello there, this is Famine. In this video, I want to talk about a mud engine that I've been using as of recently to develop a few projects that I'm working on in the mud genre of gaming that's known as Evennia. Evennia is an open source server, library, and toolkit for building multiplayer online text-based games such as MUDs, Muxes, Mushes, Mucks, and everything in between that's considered a text-based online game. MUD, more specifically, is what I've been targeting, which is a multi-user dungeon. It's a text-based game. It's pretty much what gave birth to I can't even talk. MMORPGs, such as like World of Warcraft, EverQuest, and so forth. A MUD is essentially like that, just without all the 3D or 2D, graphical game engine and sound and so forth. But some MUDs and so forth do have sound and images with them, or 2D images and so forth with them. But mostly, um, it's just a text-based version of those type of other genres that were there first. That have pretty much similar systems, based on RPG systems, level progression systems, and so forth. But that being said, I wanted to talk about this engine because I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on it, um, in the sense that you know they don't really understand the full power of what it is. And I've only recently discovered it, and I've been in a community for about 15 or so years in terms of developing MUDs and playing MUDs. And I'm kind of kicking myself for not finding this sooner. Or at least not finding, but like actually diving into it sooner. I've known about the engine for a couple of years now. I've looked at it, I've installed it, but I never actually developed anything in it until recently. And it's a real shame because it's extremely powerful. Now, Evennia is a Python-driven engine, meaning it's developed in Python. You have to use Python to develop in it. Python, I think, 3.7 or higher to be specific. It used to be Python 2 or something like that, but it's since upgraded to Python 3. It uses Django as part of its engine, which you can see here maybe in the screenshot on their homepage here. Django is a popular Python web framework. They use it. NVIDIA uses it to create a web portal. So you get like a web portal out the box when you create a new game in NVIDIA. Within minutes, you have a web portal. And with that web portal, you also have a integrated browser-based MUD client too, so you can easily play your games, your MUDs, mushes, whatever, through the integrated web client, which is awesome. And that's kind of what you have here. I've already are in one right now, but if I was to go back, this is my game, shameless plug, seaofoutlaws.com, that I'm creating, and this is what my portal looks like. So it's all customizable. It's integrated into your MUD. You can see here it's tapped into the accounts, who's recently connected, the database stats behind the game. And you can connect your help files, you get a list of characters. You can see you have like some test characters here I've been working with because I have this loaded locally. It's also, you can tie it to domains, seaofoutlaws.com. This is the production one. It's very easy to put into any hosting service that you might have. I use Amazon or AWS web services for mine, and it works amazing. And then of course, like I said, it has integrated client here, which automatically logs you in. So if your character or your players come to the portal, they create an account. You can also do character gen through the portal here, like do it like a form-based character gen as opposed to having them do it in the game, which is relatively easy. And once they create a character and log in, they can easily just click this play online button and automatically log in without having to go through like a welcome screen or anything like that, which is amazing. uh, in terms of the features you get out the box. Now, some of the bad things here are not really bad, but like some of the things to be aware of. And I'll load up the introduction page here. Is that Evennia is also a bare bones Python code base and server, intended to be highly extendable for any style of game. And I want to highlight any extendable for any style of game. The reason why it's bare bones, and the reason why I say it's kind of like the downside or con or whatever for a lot of people who talk about this, is the fact that out the box you don't have like a lot of game systems already created. You don't have like a quest system. You don't have a character progression system. You don't have any type of experience system or AI that's built into it, races, skills, character classes. All of that's not there, right? It's entirely bare. What is there is the networking, right? The administration tools, the things that's going to allow you to create these systems extremely fast and at ease. And that's why I never really picked it up until recently. Was like, oh man, I didn't want to create a whole new combat system. I didn't want to create a new race system or character classes. But when you think about it, and I'll load up some of my code here, in how easy it is to create these things. Like in my game, I have ships. So for me to define a ship, like an actual object that I can load in game that I can interact with as a player, and define attributes to that ship. I mean, it's as easy as this, creating, defining it here. Like here, I'm defining a level for my ship, and all I had to do is db.level-1. So every time I load a ship, it's always going to be level 1. The only thing I have to do from here is just create a simple system that's going to get me from 1 to 2, right? Create a system that when this dies or when you kill something, you get experience, and based on how much experience you have, right, whatever your experience value is, it levels this to level from level 1 to level 2, right? It's not hard at all to create a lot of these systems in Python, when Python is basically designed to be rapid, like rapid development. I mean, I think it was originally you created to be like for rapid prototyping of apps before you created it in your real language, like C, C++, or whatever. So it's very easy to work with NVIDIA to define attributes to build objects that are like ships or characters or whatever that you want in your game, and assign attributes to them that are saved to a persistent database that is behind the scenes that's tied with Django, your web portal here, that's tied to any type of like relational database management system you want. That's not using a flat file system. So you can have all these attributes and objects and your locations of those objects all stored within a persistent database of your choice, such as SQLite, which is the default, MySQL, Postgres, whatever you like, um, you know, available to you out the box. So yeah, so that's kind of like, kind of the downside. It is bare bones, but you do have the power to create good things. And just to talk more about any style game, it's not imposing that you be a RPG sci-fi. It's not imposing that you be a mush or a mud. It's a very powerful thing, and that's something I think a lot of game developers need to understand when developing anything, is you don't want a lot of bias, pushing you towards one thing or the other. Like if you have an idea, you want that idea to have no restrictions, right? You want to be able to just go out there and create something if it's a really good idea, and Evennia enables you to do that. Enables you to do that in the sense that it's not going to restrict you, right? It's not going to say that you have to be this way. So I mean, if you ever talk to the creator of the engine, he'll always say like you have to think outside the box. Evennia is built to be everything's an object. All your characters, your accounts, your exits, your rooms, everything's an object. Everything can be inherited from each other. Everything can work together, and that's how you make really good game systems. Is not building systems to be siloed, but building systems that have synergy with other systems. That's what really makes a really fundamental, really good game, if you ask me, based on my experience. Um, but anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the features, the cool things here. With me being not so long-winded. So the first thing I wanted to talk about here, some of the cool things I found that were awesome with Evennia, um, through developing like Sea of Outlaws, my new game, uh, is maybe the EV utilities here, and there's quite a few. There's EV menu, EV editor, EV more, EV table, and EV form. Just looking at tables is one I probably use the most. This is the ability to create really neat UI tables in your game to list things. Like to list inventory, to list like NPCs, things like that. And I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm in my game here in Sea of Outlaws, which is, again, it's a naval-based game. You're in ships, you're captaining a ship, if I can talk, with crew members and all that stuff. I have a system called a crew system. Crew are essentially NPCs that you can hire off the auction block. And in order to hire those crew members, uh, oops, I have to find my ship first. Let's see here. Puppet Reaper. Let me get a list of them. I think it is this one. Let's see. Oh, 44. And these are like the IDs. Oh, what's in that one? 408 on the IDs. Oh, wasn't that one either? The IDs for the objects. Only admins can see this, but this is kind of like the ID of, like in a database. Um, if I can find the right one. Sorry, I have quite a few because I've been testing things. Okay, here we go. So yeah, crew list. So this is a table called Eve table that I created to list my crew members, right? So this is pulling from the database. It's easily, Evennia provides ways to easily query data from a table that's in your database with little to no coding. I mean, it's like one line of code to pull this information. I have a table in my database that's randomly generating first name, last name, title, sex, age, type on the fly when you type this list. And it lists it out to you if you're in a port. But yeah, this is an example of what the table looks like using e-tables, right? And it's entirely customizable. You can add padding, borders or no borders. You can make certain, I guess as you see here, you can make certain width and length adjustments as needed. It's a pretty powerful module that you can utilize in the engine to create those UIs. Looking at further different types of menus that you can create within your game, you can create kind of like the old school RPG dialogue with responses, right? Just like you might find in like uh, maybe a popular RPG that you're playing, like Skyrim or something like that, right? You can create those very easy in Evennia using these tool sets. Even like when, like, say like a goblin attacks you, right? Given the player options to either attack or defend, and maybe like a turn-based system, right? If you wanted that, it's very easy to work with. These type of utilities and features, modules, whatever you want to call them, are pretty awesome. Um, you have forms that you can generate here to maybe create like a character sheet or like a scroll or something that has attributes on it to maybe cast a spell. It's pretty neat stuff. The other thing I want to talk about here that I really enjoy using with the engine would be the prototypes. Let me find the prototype section here. I know I saw it for a second ago. Maybe I'm missing over it. Oh, there it is. The spawner and prototype. So Evennia uses a prototype system. And the prototype system is a way to define content. And when I say content here, I'm talking about like monsters, weapons, items, armor, things like that that are part of your content. Not like systems or like characters or races, but actual content that you want to load into your game. Now, out the box, you know, the main content you have is your rooms, right? So I'm in a room called in blah blah. It's like randomly generated because my world is randomly generated. Um, you have your room and you have your description and your exits, right? That's kind of like the base of your content with Evennia. But if you want to load um, uh, a monster, right? You want to have like crew members. Like I'm on a ship. Aboard my ship, I have cannons. Like if I want to have cannons and crew members, I might want to define them as prototypes, right? Those prototypes are defined kind of like dictionaries or JSON objects. And I'll show you what one looks like in terms of what I have in my game. So I recently started creating monsters, sea monsters that I wanted to add to Sea of Outlaws, like monsters that will spawn in the sea and attack the ships, like the Kraken, right? And I went through all the D&D monster manuals, D&D 5e monster manuals, and I started creating prototypes that are defined as uh, dictionaries or JSON objects, even. Where you have a key, a name, you have a description or a prototype description, and then the monster description you'll see in game. And then it's all its attributes. Like just assigning attributes is as easy as just adding to the prototype here. You could put like morale if you wanted to, if you want to give the monster some type of morale value, right? The next time I load the Kraken in game, if I say, was to reload the game and spawn this, it'll have a morale attribute saved to it that's saved to the database. So it's really that easy to create things. If I want to create like a weapon, right? Let's just call it like weapon sword of fire, right? Just to create a weapon, I can just do like give it a key name, uh, key sword of fire. Maybe give it, start giving it attributes to say that the damage is like, I don't know, 1d5 or 8 or something like that. It has a value in copper, like, whatever, some high amount. Um, that's it. That's all I need. Like when I load this, I'll be able, if I was to reload the game right now, I would see a weapon sort of fire in the spawn list. And I'll show you what that looks like too. If I was to type spawn, oh, can't do it there, to go into my admin account. If I was to do spawn list, I would see it in my spawn list, and I can load that weapon of fire, right? Here, there's a sea naga that I loaded. If I was to examine that sea naga will match exactly the sea naga that I have defined here in the prototype. I think it's the last one here. Like it's the exact spitting copy of what I have here, right? So, with this prototype, you can see I have quite a few attributes, and I'm trying to extend my sea naga, which I'm probably gonna impose to all my other creatures here. I have abilities assigned to it, and those abilities are just typed in plain text. I give an ability name and then a number, and that number reflects kind of like a modifier, like a roll 20 D20 system. The roll 20, a D20 system. When I roll a D20 dice for bite, it'll get a +3 modifier, right? And I created kind of like a helper function here called executability. So when I create a script and assign that script to the seed naga to give it AI, and it goes through the combat, right? It's gonna go and it's gonna pull up the abilities and see what abilities they have and randomly execute them. And it's gonna execute them using this function. It's gonna pass the ability. The monster comes from the target that it's trying to bite, and maybe the ship to its targeting, since all monsters should be attacking at least a ship by default. and it's going to pass bite. And I just have a simple catch here. Is like if the ability name is bite, this is what it's going to do. It's going to look at, it's going to do a roll, like a D20 roll of the target armor. So the ship has armor. It's going to see if it can bite through that armor. And if it does, it's going to take hit points from that ship and, you know, basically apply whatever the damage is based on the monster rating. So it's like it's that easy just to tie in, like create an ability system off a simple function that's going to reference the objects that it's trying to bite, using, you know, whatever modifier value, you know, arguments you want to pass to it. And it'll be the same for like immunity and saving throws and attributes. Like this is just straight copy from the D&D monster manual. And I added other things like speech. So like when the monster is attacking, it'll randomly generate like one of these speech values. If it's at sea, right, it'll do that. If the sea naga jumps aboard the ship, which I had the ability of sea monsters attacking the ship first, and maybe randomly jumping aboard, or if it's like the Kraken will crawl aside the ship and start killing the crew members. You know, it'll do these speeches, you know, based on if it's at aboard or I guess act aboard and act C, right? And then if it's boarding, like this is the message it'll give to the player to let them know, oh, go, you know, the sea naga dives deep into the water and for a brief moment appears she is gone, and then suddenly she explodes out the water and lands on the deck. You know, so that's like the message they get when it lands on the deck, and then this is kind of like the speech that that monster has when they're on the deck, right? Or the act that they do. They flail around the deck, or like it says here, the sea naga sits up on her snake-like tail, right? Just kind of give it acts and speech and stuff like that that are easily added to prototypes. And these prototypes can be loaded with game code, or it can be loaded from executing commands in the game. So prototypes are pretty neat. Uh, you know, and just looking at more of my prototypes here, I have prototypes for my crew. My crew are living inside my ship because objects can be within objects. Players can be in objects. So I have a ship that I'm commanding. I'm puppeting this ship, but I also have crew members that are part of the inventory of that ship. And even players, other players can be part of the ship. I can extend this easily to allow players to be part of my crew members if I wanted to. All of that's out the box and easy to add. You know, here I have supplies, seeds, and stuff like that. I'm moving between ports in my games. So yeah, that being said, looking more at the features. So the prototypes are definitely a powerful one. It's easy to create content on the fly and load that content into the game. The next one would be scripts. Uh, the scripting system here, or I guess you could call it script system, is just essentially adding Python scripts to objects. So every object in the game, or everything's an object in the game. So my ship is an object. Um, you know, and these crew members don't have scripts on them. Let me find one that does. Let's see, 4.8. I have multiple. Wasn't that one? I have multiple Reapers here because I was testing things like attacking them, and some of them don't have crew members on them. I'll find the right one. Oh, it wasn't that one. That one's broke. 4241. I only have one crew member on that one. 4312. Whammy. There we go. So in a moment here, you'll see some of the scripts start to play out, but everything's an object. So I'm in a ship. The ship can have a script. And let me just make sure I get that copied. This. Oh, that did not copy. Awesome. Make sure I get the right one. If I was a puppet famine, which is my account, and type scripts, you can see the scripts that are running right now. I have a script on my Reaper, right? The ship that I was just in, and that script, if you were to look at it, would be in scripts. Uh, that script controls basically how the crew act, like the AI of the crew. Um, and so I have crew update, merchant update. I have scripts for my merchants, right, to generate goods and stuff. I have scripts for speech. I have scripts for my combat and my monster spawner, my monster AI that's controlling like the sea naga. I have a script for rotting when the ships are sank and they're converted into wrecks. But yeah, I have a simple script here that just basically defines the state of the crew on the ship. So if they're at sea, right, they're not attacking anything. You have kind of like a randomly generated, set of actions here that will move the crew around the ship. That will execute different speeches depending if they're pirate or not pirate, and all that cool stuff. If you were to go back and just watch the screen here while I talk, you'll see some of the crew members moving about the ship like that. So Millie Ward, which is a crew member, moved to the captain quarters. Brock Hoistville moved to the waist of the ship. Easter Merton moved to the brig. One of them just spoke, said the gold she calls to me. Um, they're all pirates, so they have kind of like the pirate slang. But yeah, they're moving around the ship based on those scripts. So using scripts in the game can be very powerful. You can define those scripts in pure Python. It's just like creating its own little Python module that you can do anything with. I have scripts for ship AI that control the ship. Monster AI, right? When a monster gets spawned, all the monsters will get the script that will randomly, again, generate, go through their abilities and through the speeches and the acts to kind of simulate, monster AI, which is really easy to do. I have a rotting script. So when when crew members die or when monsters die on the ship, a corpse will spawn in the inventory, right? It doesn't say here, but there's a corpse. You see an option here. It says, "Oh, there's a corpse here," and if you don't get rid of that corpse, it'll do something. And then, just to expand on this, I'm a huge Dwarf Fortress fan. I eventually will probably make it where corpses, if they don't get tossed overseas or buried right, maybe a ghost will appear, right? And then I could create a whole new script here called like class ghost, right? Well, and if you don't bury the the corpse, if you don't, do a whole ceremony, maybe a ghost will haunt the ship and scare the crew members. And the crew have, if you examine some of the crews, the crew have morale, and maybe if they don't bury it, maybe the morale will sink, and if it goes low enough, maybe the crew member will go crazy or start killing other crew members. So like you have that capability of doing really cool things with scripts. Another one that I was thinking about doing is uh, I'm here at sea, even though this is a randomly generated room I'm in. This is a sea-based room, and you see that you have wrecks here because I've been testing combat and killing these Ibis ships. These aren't currently rotting, right? They'll be here until I delete them. But if I put a rotting script on them or a sinking script, they will sink, slowly start to sink into the room. And being, again, objects, rooms are objects. I can go to this object here. I can do teleport. I think I have to teleport. Nope, I have to be in my famine. If I was to do teleport 56, right, I'm in the room. I can even puppet 56, I bet, which is the room. Yeah, I'm the room right now. Like I am the room, right? I can't look around because I don't have that option, but I am the room right now. So that's kind of the difference between being the location versus contents. So contents will be the inventory and location, or being the puppeted of this. I am that location. So I can puppet famine again and just be famine. But yeah, what I was trying to get at is I can assign a script to the rec where it will slowly sync over time, right? That script will handle the ticking, the time. Uh, I'm sorry I didn't talk about that earlier, but you define the intervals of the scripts. This would be 60 seconds. You can assign it to whatever you want. It can be persistent when you reload. You can save database items with the script, so you can add attributes. So you can add a tick system to this, to where every 60 seconds it will slowly sink into the sea, and then maybe when it gets to like the 10th minute, it will take the ship, remove it from the room, but also store the object value, right? Store the object inside the room. So then that allows me to create systems like, okay, well, the wreck is no longer here. The player can't see them, but maybe I could create a system where they can search the room, right? And maybe find the wreck. Maybe simulate that they have to dive into the water and look, at the bottom of the sea in order to find this wreck and maybe discover new treasures and stuff like that. So you have that capability of doing that through scripts and being able to use the systems that are there for you with these objects in order to create like new content, new experiences that the players can do. So with that, I won't go too deep into the scripts, but scripts are very powerful. You can have scripts that are assigned to every object, rooms, characters, monsters, items. You can make singing swords or whatever. You can also have global scripts, and global scripts that you can interact with, that you can assign values to, kind of like if you wanted to do a tick system, like every 60 seconds for all players and all objects, you can do that, or just like maybe a weather system or something like that, are really cool. So scripts are definitely one of the top ones. Command sets is a very popular, a really cool feature. So you have commands like, let's say, digging and looking and getting. You don't have to assign the specific get or look command to an object. You can put those commands into a command set and assign a bunch of commands to an object. And to kind of give you a reference of that, I have a combat system, and that combat system, basically, if you attack someone, and this is the attack command at the top here, if you attack someone, you get assigned a command set, a combat command set. So that combat command set then allows you to have commands like shoot and move and flee. But if you don't attack anyone, you don't have that ability. You can't shoot, you can't flee because you're not in combat. So you can assign combat or commands that are tied to specific objects based on certain states of that object if you wanted. And being I have a ship game. I have commands that are available. I'm right now. I'm famine, right? So I'm a character. I'm not in a ship. If I was to puppet the ship, I'm in this object. I now have a set of commands that are only available to this object that I can use. That's tied to being a ship, right? Like captain or crew. Like these are all commands that are part of this ship's command set, which is very cool. So objects can have specific command sets based on where they are, and you can do some really cool, powerful things with that. So command sets, scripts, tagging, another one that I want to mention. So tags, uh, your your objects have tags, and if you was to examine this room here, you'll see that I have some tags. And these tags allow me to group objects based on a tagging system. And this tagging system is vital for me to understand like who's aboard, like all the crew members that are part of this specific ship. So if I want to build systems that maybe just want to pull all the crew members, I don't have to go and list all the inventory items of this ship in order to find which one of these objects is a crew member versus a cannon. I can tag the crew members. If I was to examine one of these crew members, I could tag the crew members uh, with a category that, hey, this crew member is part of this object and he's located in the crew quarters. So I can easily look up all the crew members that are part of the crew quarters, right, for this object. I can easily look up all the crew members that are part of this object. That object is the ship, the Reaper that I'm in, and that Reaper has a unique value for me. So it's easy for me to code systems to easily quickly reference the crew members, and maybe all the crew members are part of the crew quarters. And if I had, like, say, the Sea Naga jumped aboard the ship and the Sea Naga started in the waist of the ship and then moved to the crew quarters, I can change the tag of the Sea Naga to crew quarters with the object that the Sea Naga is aboard. So I could quickly pull not only just the crew members that are part of the crew quarters, but also monsters that are part of the crew quarters as well. So the tagging system is very awesome. It's stored in a database. It's queried by a database. You can tag anything. You can tag rooms. Again, I tagged the room here with a set of tags to define if it's a port or not, right? So is this a port or is it not a port? And it's a pirate room that has a port, right? So if I want to look up all the ports in all of my world, I can easily pull up all the ports and pull the object, the object ID 56 and reference all of those ports via like other game systems or code. It's very neat, very cool, easy way to group objects, to search objects, to reference those objects, to change values on them within Python. So I think that's about it. I don't want to go too depth, and this video is going to end up being like 3 hours long if I go into everything. But those are the top ones. Again, this is probably one of the best engines on the market, I think, today. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing tool for building MUDs, mushes, or any type of text-based game. I absolutely love it. I've been using it pretty much for a lot of different ideas. You know, I'm creating a C-based game where you have crew members in them. I'm able to do this with in Evennia very easy. You know, even because I'm doing this, I've been generating a lot of hype around my type of game because there's no MUDs out there that do this. And a lot of the engines don't really support it out the box without me having to hack away at things or creating, you know, whole new systems and things that maybe, you know, just like, you know, just being able to create like a ship and having crew members in those ships, maybe, you know, won't be as easy in like a ROM-based MUD as it is in Evennia. So you have, you know, it's a very powerful engine. You have the ability, it has the tool sets there to really create some really crazy innovative things if you really want to use it. So I highly encourage you to check it out if you haven't. Evennia.com is the site. It's open source. It has a very flexible license. You can do things. You can do commercial games in this. You know, the creator behind this doesn't care. He just wanted to give us this gift and let us do whatever the hell we want with it. So I'll leave it at that. Until next time, cheers.